Do you remember the video game Tetris? The concept is simple. Various shapes consisting of 4 squares each randomly fall to the bottom of a container. When they're falling, you can rotate them as well as move them side to side. The goal is to stack them without leaving any empty spaces. Every time you have an entire row filled, meaning there are no empty spaces in it, that row disappears and all the rows above it drop one. Ultimately, you are trying to keep the stack of shapes from piling up to the top of the container. If it does, you lose. Or should I say, when it does, you lose. Like I said, it's a relatively simple game, at least in theory. The problem is that many of the shapes don't stack neatly together, leaving holes that can't be filled in. To make matters worse, every 10 rows you complete, it increases the speed at which the shapes fall. I loved to play Tetris. I had it on my Nintendo system in the early 90s. I loved it so much that I also bought a Game Boy and a Tetris cartridge for it, so I could play it anywhere I went. I think it appealed to the nerd in me, because it was simply a matter of methodically and strategically placing each piece. In fact, I got so good at it, I could play a single game for what seemed like an eternity. But it wasn't. No matter how good I got, the pieces would just keep falling faster and faster, and eventually I would make a mistake. And that's all it took, one mistake, and there was no way to recover. I prided myself on being able to keep the high score, but when you think about it, having the high score didn't matter. I still lost the game. This past Sunday, we were looking at Jesus' words in Matthew 6 when he said, "Unless your righteousness exceeds that of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven." The standard, or the baseline for entrance into the kingdom of heaven, is perfection. It doesn't matter how close to perfection someone comes, almost perfect is still not perfect. Jesus is the only person who ever lived a completely perfect life. Perfection. Every act, every thought, every motive, pure perfection. And then he traded places with us. He died a sinner's death so we wouldn't have to. He offers us his perfect life instead. Paul tells us that God made him who had no sin to be sin for us, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. All we have to do is ask. Ask for forgiveness and accept his offer. Have you done that? If not, don't wait until it's game over.